This is your first time listening, welcome. If you've listened to us before, welcome back. Today, I'm bringing to you a story of two little boys. This story should sound, in the beginning, a little bit familiar. So let's talk about just kids playing, having fun, right? I just kind of want to take you back for just a moment. And as you look on the screen, if you're listening just as at the podcast, I just want you to kind of imagine when you were young, or just your grandkids or your children just out playing. You know, these were two little boys just rummaging. And unfortunately, these were two little boys living in South Africa. And what they did was they were looking through and rummaging through people's garbage, looking for things to sell. This is kind of what they did, right? And so as they were looking through the garbage, looking for things to sell, running through people's backyards, and you can kind of imagine they're looking and running and having fun, right? And they're rummaging and they're finding things. They're finding coloring books and they're finding all kinds of things, thinking that we're going to sell this and we're going to sell that. And they're just two friends having the time of their life. 12, 13 years old. Can you just simply imagine? It's the morning time. They're just having a ball. And then they spot a mango tree and they think, oh my God, they have just kind of struck it rich, right? So they grab these mangoes and they're trying to put the mangoes in the bags along with all the other treasures that they found. And we all know that some people's garbage is another man's treasure, right? And so here these beautiful babies found all this stuff. They found these coloring books that have already been colored in, but they figured they could probably resell it. They found these toys that are probably broken into some pieces, but they figured they probably could, put them back together, And then all of a sudden, they see these mangoes and they're probably thinking, we're going to take these mangoes and we're going to go run in a corner and we're going to eat these mangoes, and some we're going to eat and some we're going to sell. You can only imagine, right? And so these boys, all of a sudden, they're putting these things in their bags, and then they begin to, the owner of the property sees these little boys out there and finds himself frustrated, right? And so he begins to probably banging on the windows as to say, get out. And you know how that happens, right? And all of a sudden, you can imagine that the boys take off running. We're going to continue some stories as we continue the podcast series, and even these things on YouTube, about a little bit more about South Africa, some things that I'm beginning to understand about South Africa. But right now, we really want to talk about this little boy because I don't want this story to go underground and not be forgotten. This story has struck me in such a way that it really breaks my heart because I'm a grandmother and I have two little boys that are close to this age. They're almost this young boy's age. These little boys were 12 and 13 years old. Mind you, 12 and 13 years old. Little kids, that this story is just so heartbreaking. So listen closely as they describe what has happened. I'll leave the link to the people who first broke this story for me below.
Klawer man has been arrested for the murder of a missing 13-year-old boy this afternoon.
Police found human remains in sewage pipes at a man's home on Friday.
This is the small town of Klawer, named after the Klawer. It's about 3 hours drive north of Cape Town and surrounded by beautiful mountain ranges. It's known for its grapes, its rooibos, its honey and citrus. It's also called a little corridor of unusualness, which takes on a rather sinister light in view of recent events.
In this scenic little town,
situated on the cusp of the Western and Northern Cape, a truly disturbing murder occurred. Jerobejin van Wyk, a 13-year-old boy, was killed, then butchered in this house. It sparked racial tension, caused uproar in the community. Daniel Smit has admitted to killing Jerobejin. He's been described by many as a quiet individual, but also a man with a troubling past.
Ik wil net voor hem verraden. Maar dat is mijn kind zijn laatste woorden aan hem geweest. Dat is wat ik bij je graag wil weten. Ik wil dit weten bij hem. En hij moet het gaan van mij zeggen.
For those of you who are listening and you are not watching by YouTube, this is his mother speaking at this time, and all she's crying, and she's just wanting to understand what was her child's last words, what was he saying, and she was figuring he must have been crying out for her, and she wasn't there.
Teresa van Wyk, the mother of murdered Jerobejin, has been searching for answers ever since he disappeared on the 2nd of February.
Hoe kan hij een levendige kind of een dode kind zo opkappen?
He was in the occult since the age of 13 for 20 years. He was not a Satanist, although he did make a contract with Satan and the cult group. He says there was 2 contracts he made in blood.
I hate to keep stopping, but I do want to understand, and for those of you all out there who may understand much better than I could ever understand, help me understand. How are you not a Satanist, but you make a blood contract with Satan, but you're not a Satanist? I'm not sure I understand.
Santi Human has been a lawyer in the district of Matsikama for over 20 years. Smit approached her when the police questioned him about the missing child, Jerobejin. She's representing him in his upcoming trial. He's given her explicit instructions to answer the questions carte blanche posed, as long as the case is not jeopardized. What do you think made Daniel angry at the house when Jerobejin and his friends were hanging around?
A lot of the people living in Klawer is frustrated with the young kids coming into their houses and stealing stuff. So the frustration, I think, got to him that day. And that he wanted to ask him, what were you doing in my yard?
So again, for those that are listening, this is the little boy that was with him. And what he is saying is that they were going in the yards looking for cans, looking for things that they could sell. This is what we were talking about earlier in the beginning. Just little kids looking for things that they could sell in the garbage, not in people's homes. They were not breaking and entering. This is just in the garbage.
This is Jerobejin's friend Dino. He was with Jerobejin on that fateful day when they noticed some fruit on Smit's property.
Now, what the little boy said was that they saw the fruit on the tree on Smit's property, and they climbed over the small wall to get it. Smit hollered out to them, "If I catch you, you will never see your parents again." Now, as kids, you're probably thinking, he doesn't mean that. You're probably just thinking in your head, let's grab these mangoes and take off and run, right? You're not thinking that this man is really going to kill you.
The boys scattered and ran away from Smit's house. He got in his vehicle and gave chase. The boys were hiding behind houses, buildings, and even the cemetery. Still, Smit followed them.
That is when the occult resort back into him. He felt out of control and tried to be in control.
Whilst Dino was hiding in this bin, Jerobejin decided to get away on his own. Watch this exclusive CCTV footage of Smit trying to corner Jerobejin.
Again, I apologize for those that are watching it via YouTube, but for those that are listening via podcast, what you see here is that the two boys end up splitting up, and the young boy, I believe his name sounded more like Dina, he jumped into what was like a barrel, a bin. So he jumps into this bin as he's hiding, and his Jerobejin is screaming at him, run, run, run. And the man, Smit, Daniel Smit, is chasing him in what they call a bakkie. A bakkie is what we consider a pickup truck. It's like a pickup truck. So Smit is racing down the road as the little boy is running down the road, and he's chasing him, trying to corner him and pin him in this bakkie. And you'll soon hear the little boy say he heard a thud. And once he heard that thud, he never heard the voice of his friend ever again.
Roep my naam, toe sê ek moet hol. Hoor net toa. Sien kom ek weer nie. Hoor kom ek weer nie.
That thud was apparently Smit's bakkie colliding with Jerobejin right here. Apparently he was still alive, trying to sit up, when Smit threw him into the back of the vehicle and tore off.
Toe ek aan by die huis kom, toe het ek na die polisiestasie toe gegaan. En hulle het my daai heel nag laat sit omtrent.
A service delivery complaint, including not taking the missing persons report seriously, was lodged against Klawer police. This after Teresa allegedly had to wait several hours for an Afrikaans-speaking officer to assist her.
Hoe kan hulle twee swart polismanne daar los? Maar hulle weet, as daar nou 'n kleerling kom, dan bestaan nie swart as die kleerling nie.
So let's talk about this just for a moment, because these are the type of things that we're going to talk about and explore further in more podcasts down the road. But in South Africa, that is a majority black continent or area or country, right? And so it is minority white, and yet you only have 2 black officers that speak the language of the majority of the people. Let that sit on you for a minute. Just think about that for just a moment. So, of course, when this woman comes in there, makes the complaint about her child missing, they don't speak the language, and they have to wait until they have an officer that actually speaks the language. So they have to wait till at least one of the 2 officers that they have that speak their language comes in.
The allegations made that there was no Afrikaans-speaking police officer on duty to interview Jerobejin's mother was investigated, and it was found that there was no basis for such a complaint.
The Western Cape Police spokesperson, Colonel Andre Trout, informed us that an internal investigation was launched to look into the complaints.
The allegation that the missing persons report was not taken seriously has been refuted by our internal investigation. It was found that police officers were immediately deployed in the area to start the search for the missing boy.
Teresa was sent home from the police station at around 3 o'clock on Thursday morning without any answers. She knew Jerobejin had been taken by Smit, but the thought of murder didn't cross her mind. Did he say that Jerobejin was still alive?
It is definitely so that he was still alive. And when he came to the house, the daughter also saw him walking. So he was definitely alive. There things went wrong. Yeah, there things went wrong. I will not really go into that in detail at this stage. But there he made the decision and he killed the boy.
How did he kill him?
He broke his neck.
broke his neck.
And I don't want to say how. Not at this stage.
Santi's now going to take us into Daniel Smit's house, which I'm feeling a little bit nervous about.
This is where they came through.
The garage.
Yeah, the garage. Daniel and the boy, they walked in here and walked to the kitchen. Daniel gave Jerobejin a piece of bread to eat and something to drink, and that is when he broke his neck.
Smit then put the body in a chest freezer until the evening.
There was body parts that showed that it was placed in a fireplace, and that is the truth, and I can show you the fireplace.
Now, can you even imagine what's going through this little boy's head? Now, he's probably thinking that he's in big trouble, you know. He stole this man's mangoes. Mangoes on a tree, a fruit-bearing tree. You probably had tons of mangoes back there that you couldn't even eat. But a fruit-bearing tree. But you're a little black boy, and this is a white man, and you stole his mangoes out his yard. So at worst, you probably are thinking that he's going to whoop you. This is probably what you're thinking in your mind. Then he's going to tell your parents, and you're in big trouble. Not in a million years do you think this was the last day that you would ever see on planet Earth. Never. And what went through the mind of this grown man, other than evil, other than pure satanic evil, that would cause you to think that the punishment for the crime of stealing mangoes was death? So we know that that's not really what it was. It was just a satanic ritual that had to be done. And you sacrificed that little boy. And not only did you sacrifice that little boy, you must have sacrificed your own life as well. I don't know that I understand the logic in that. And if someone does, if you could please comment and help me to DM me or something to help me to understand the logic. I don't even know that I really want to understand the logic in it, but I need to I think, understand some sense of logic in this, because you sacrifice his life and yours to gain what?
What? Put his body or parts of his body in here?
Yes.
Do you think Daniel's happy with us knowing about this?
Yeah, Daniel wants the truth to be told, because people are still looking for the body and looking for something more to bury. There's nothing more. There's nothing more.
This is it.
This is it. And he wants...
Don't hear the rest in the drain.
A local municipal worker noticed Smit was tampering with the drains the day after Jerobejin disappeared. This was peculiar behavior, as the municipality services the drains regularly.
The municipal workers was busy pumping the drain when something blocked the pipe. And then they pulled out with a piece of wire, pulled out pieces of meat. It was this part, and then the hair, and a piece of one ear.
Billy Claassen is a former farm worker turned activist. He started the Rural and Farm Workers Development Organization to help marginalized laborers. He was called in to assist when Jerobejin was reported as missing.
I said, I told you guys this is the child. And then I swearing at this captain, lig jou gat en bel die mense om te kom, and then they took over the scene again as a crime scene.
DNA tests confirmed that it was Jerobejin. Smit was already detained for kidnapping and is now facing charges of murder, kidnapping, assault, and obstructing the ends of justice. The next court date is set for the 26th of April. Even though Teresa is still grieving, she'll attend the hearing, hoping to find more answers.
Gisterand het ek wakker geskrik. Toe kom sit ek by my kind en ek sit en huil by my kind. Hy tyd waar hy man met hom besig is, het hy van my geroep. En dit wat my hart so seer maak. Want ek was die dame om te help. En ek sal hom nooit vergewe, ek sal hom nooit vergewe nie.
Right now, this is his mom again speaking, and she's just saying that, you know, she woke up in the middle of the night and sat on the edge of her bed, and she was just thinking about her child. And what she was saying was that she could never forgive him. You know, she wasn't there for him. And, you know, again, his last words must have been, you know, crying out for her, and she was not there, but she could never forgive this man.
Since Jerobejin's murder, community improvement projects have been started in an attempt to keep children off the streets. The death of Jerobejin shocked the whole town, and like Teresa, residents are desperate for answers. They've stood strong by her side from the very beginning. And as Teresa waits for the trial to commence, perhaps now Jerobejin is the one person who can unite the town of Klawer.
You will not find the normal clean clues on a murder scene because it was an occult killing. My client is not a sick person as in mental health problems. He has spiritual problems. Many people does not believe there is a God or that Jesus saved us. Fortunately, I do, because in this case you are dealing with the opposite spirit, the spirit of darkness and pure evil, where a human being is nothing but a sacrifice instead of the Holy Spirit of goodness.
Now, mind you, this is his attorney. This is his attorney.
Client got involved in the occult when he was 13 years old, and it happened in Vredendal when he met someone from out of town who gave him stuff about the occult to read. He felt he belonged, he felt part of it. So that is like we have all that problem with people that are lonely and they start feeling part of something. Even the gangs, it's work like that. We have to protect the lonely people in society.
Okay, again, I hate to keep doing this, but there is a serious message in this. This is why our children end up in gangs, because they feel the need to belong. They feel the need to feel like they are protected because the gangs outweigh the number of people in the community, so to speak. They feel they need that protection. This is why our elderly end up with crimes that, for instance, they get taken advantage of a lot. So they end up sending money to places because they feel the need to belong. They want to be needed. They want to help. They want to have someone to talk to. They are lonely. These are the types of things that happen. This is how it's easy, even with religions. This is how easy people can get involved with the occults, with gangs, with the, messing with the seniors. This is how it happens because people feel the need to belong. They feel lonely. So we have to do a better job. We, as a society, as our families, we have to do a better job.
When he was 19, an occult group from Sea Point showed him how to kill. I can say for that all the people, he told me that this morning, all the people of that cult died. The last one died in 2009. He was taught how to kill with very little blood spill and to incinerate the body and to throw any remains in the sea. It's all about being in control. It's part of their rituals. He wants to be delivered from the evil spirits, and I've arranged for a well-known spiritual leader in our community, Jan Oosthuizen, to assist with that. I've asked the court, I am going to ask the court now, that he be kept separate from other inmates for their safety, because I do not know when he will be triggered again. We will not ask for bail, not at any stage of this trial. This stage, we have to be sure that the community is safe, that no one goes out and burn places down and kill farmers or anything because of erroneous things in the papers and say that the farmer killed it. He's not a farmer. He was never a farmer. He has told me that this is the fourth one. I have not a lot of details about the others, but I do know it did not happen in Klawer.
Now, he may have said that this was the first one, but this was done so easily and with such precision. I don't believe that this was the first one. I'm not his judge or jury, and maybe just because it was a child and he was so huge, that it was done so easily. But, I don't believe it was the first one. You didn't start in the occult at 13 years old, and now you're 56 or 59, well, however old he was. And this was the very first time you've done it. And not only did you sacrifice this poor little 13-year-old boy, but you've now sacrificed your own life, and now you want help. Yeah, no.
It was in Sea Point.
Only thing is what I got from the police, and I only know that he was a train driver. That's all I know. I haven't gone into detail about how long he's been here. But as any human being, and I'm also a human being, I'm shocked. This is an evil deed that was done. You can't even imagine. I'm also a father and I'm a grandfather. You can't even imagine what the mother has gone through. When I spoke to her, she couldn't speak. In the tears, I was also traumatized, because this is bad. As a mayor, you can't just ignore these things. That's why you were elected as a mayor, to see that these things does not happen again. And I will do everything in my power.
Well, this is the story of Jerobejin van Wyk, and I hope this story is never forgotten. And like I said, we are going to talk about some other stories that happen in not just Klawer, but in South Africa. And we're going to see that South Africa has a propensity to be very racist. Now, of course, this mayor said, he was feeling sick. This is evil, and that, he was elected mayor and that this should never happen. And the police officer said, they checked into the story of there was only, no one was there to speak her language. And that was found out to not be true. And of course, I don't believe none of it, but that's my belief, right? But we know that in South Africa, unfortunately, are just on the heels of apartheid. And we'll talk about that again on a later podcast or video. But they are white. The white race or the European race is 8% of the population. 8% of the population. And they own 72 to 80% of the land. Let that sink in. So not only are they 8% and own 72 to 80% of the land, but they are in charge of most things. So now they are starting to take it back. And I have a big issue with all of this. And so, we'll talk about it on a later video, but I don't want this little boy's, death to go in vain. I'm hoping that this man absolutely spends the rest of his days, not only, in prison, but they take his life soon so that he can go on to the afterlife. He does not need to spend any more time on this side of things to get better at his craft. So thank you for listening to Black Talk. Greatly appreciate everybody that has stayed to listen to this podcast, to this YouTube video. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. We are just getting started on this journey. I hope that you come back. If you appreciated what you saw, please share this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. You have a blessed day.